Thank you. We have a live look from Washington, D.C. this morning. Polls around the nation opened up for Election Day. The battle for the White House has been going on for months, and now it all comes down to today.
Both President Trump and Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden have hit the ground running in key swing states like Arizona, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. They're doing it so they can secure the final votes needed to win the White House. And the final Marist NBC poll shows President Trump and Joe Biden are tied for voters here in the state of Arizona. Biden has a slight lead in Pennsylvania ahead of the election.
Well, yesterday, both camps held rallies in Pennsylvania. The traditionally blue state turned red when the president won it back in 2016. Now Biden hopes to win back his home state.
I chose Western Pennsylvania for my first stop as a candidate, and now for my last stop before Election Day, because you represent the backbone of this country.
President Trump was pretty busy yesterday as well, holding 5 rallies on the eve of the election. The commander-in-chief says he's ready to make America great again.
We made history together 4 years ago, and tomorrow we're going to make history once again.
And the president says he'll be visiting one of his campaign offices in Virginia today before going back to the White House to watch the results come in there. Now, Biden is set to travel to his hometown of Scranton, Pennsylvania, as well as Philadelphia.
Well, along with the presidential race, the Arizona Senate race is turning out to be closer than people thought. Incumbent Republican Senator Martha McSally and Democratic challenger Mark Kelly made their final bids to voters yesterday. Kelly spent his day campaigning with his wife, Gabby Giffords, in Tucson. In the Valley, state party leaders attended a rally at Republican headquarters to drum up last-minute support for Senator McSally. The latest NBC poll shows McSally and Kelly are neck and neck in this Senate race. If you have plans to hit the polls today, it is likely safety is going to be your #1 priority.
Team 12's Matt Uris live for us at Burton Bar Library this morning in Phoenix, where the COVID-19 safety protocols are already in place. And Matt, we just saw a few minutes ago, folks have been lined up there all morning. They're on their way into the polls now. How are poll workers keeping them safe?
Good morning, Ryan. I'll get to those safety precautions in just a moment. I want to start with some news, though. I just spoke to the elections department. They tell me that nearly 6,000 votes were already cast in Maricopa County before 6:15 a.m. So nearly 6,000 votes before 6:15 a.m. The turnout already happening. All right, back to these safety precautions. They have been in place since the summer when we had the primary election. So poll workers are warmed up, if you will, for game day. And according to County Recorder Adrian Fontes, he says when you show up to the polls, you'll find workers wearing masks, face shields, and gloves. Workers have also increased daily cleaning of high-touch surfaces and been doing weekly deep cleaning. As for the voters, you will be required to wear masks. Poll workers will offer you one if you forgot one at home, but note, you will not be turned away if you don't have a mask. So the requirement's a bit of a soft one, but go ahead and do the right thing there. You'll also have to physical distance. Here's the county recorder. Take a listen.
We're going to try to get them in and out as quickly as possible so that we can protect everybody else from possible transmission of COVID-19.
A couple more things to remember before you head to the polls. You'll need to show your ID to vote in person. And if you have a mail-in ballot that you filled out, you can go in and drop it off. Just make sure you've signed it first. The elections department is stressing the importance of that. Otherwise, it is invalid. Finally, voting centers here in Maricopa County opened at 6 a.m. They'll remain open until 7 o'clock this evening. Live in Phoenix, Matt Uris, Today in AZ.
All right, Matt, thanks. Big day out there. Along with voting for who will take the White House and who will represent Arizona in Congress, it's also time to decide if marijuana should be legalized in Arizona. Prop 207 has been on the ballot before in another way, but it failed very, very closely back in 2016. 51% of Arizona saying no on Prop 205 back then. Now Arizona gets to vote again on a bill that would legalize possession and use of recreational marijuana. If you vote yes, the bill would tax marijuana sales. It would only be eligible to adults over 21, and there would be federal rules created to regulate marijuana businesses. But 207 is not the only big initiative on the ballot. Prop 208 also has a lot of people buzzing. The initiative calls to raise taxes on individuals who make more than $250,000 a year or households filing jointly making more than $500,000. The extra tax money would go towards teacher salaries, retention programs, and mentor programs. Before you go to cast your vote this morning, make sure you visit our website where we have everything you need to know about Decision 2020, including the local candidates and initiatives. All that's on our website. Again, just head to 12news.com/plan-your-vote.
Disadvantage we have with the Electoral College, you automatically lose, I don't care if you bring back Abraham Lincoln and George Washington as his running mate, you lose New York, Illinois, and California, okay?
Well, that was President Trump voicing concerns about winning the Electoral College during one of his rallies yesterday. His camp has been flooding Arizona for weeks in an effort to ensure the president keeps State 48 red. Arizona has gone blue just once in the last 72 years, but the changing political landscape here and across a few other states could be enough to decide this election. Team 12's political insider, Bram Resnick, breaks it down.
Every election is a numbers game. Polling, spending, and ultimately votes. But as we saw in 2016, the Electoral College is what really matters.
Don't forget, Joe and Kamala can win by 3 million votes and still lose.
During the last election, Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump flipped 3 Rust Belt states that hadn't voted red since the 1980s: Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. All 3 of those states were decided by less than 1 percentage point. This year, both campaigns are zeroing in on 6 battleground states, including Arizona, and keeping an eye on a handful of others. While Arizona carries only 11 Electoral College votes, it's worth picking up if one candidate were to lose those major Rust Belt states. Just look at the margin of victory from 2016. Had Hillary Clinton taken the Rust Belt and its 46 electors, she would be our president. If Joe Biden can reverse that, he has a shot at winning the Electoral College and the White House. But where it could get interesting is if President Trump carries the Rust Belt and North Carolina, but loses Arizona and also Florida, a traditional swing state. Those 2 states combined for 40 electoral votes, pushing a margin of victory to just 6 electoral votes. That formula could fall apart for either candidate, with losses in closely contested states like Nevada, New Hampshire, or Iowa. That's why 85% of TV ad spending in this election is being funneled to Arizona and the 5 other battleground states. The bottom line, Arizona's 11 votes in the Electoral College could decide who wins the White House. In Phoenix, Bram Resnick, Today in AZ.
Thanks, Bram. Yeah, and let's highlight this even a little bit more so, because let's be honest, there's a lot of states across this country where we already know how things are going to shake out in the Electoral College. California, New York, a lot of these places, Illinois, as you heard the president say earlier. But there are, let's say, 5 really key swing states, or at least that's what the experts believe right now. We're talking about Nevada, Arizona, Iowa, Pennsylvania, and Florida. So let's break down what would happen here. Say, for instance, Nevada goes blue, which it seems like, according to the polls, it's going to. In Pennsylvania, let's say that also goes blue. Joe Biden's home state, also where the polls say things could change in that direction. Now, Iowa is a state that's very close, but let's just say here, for hypothetical reasons, it goes red. Those are 6 Electoral College votes for President Trump. And then Florida, this is technically Trump's home state because this is where he votes. Those are big, 29 Electoral College votes there. Okay, so for 4 of the 5 key swing states, before we get to Arizona, take a look up top. 262 Electoral College votes to Biden, 263 to President Trump at that point, which leaves 11 votes in Arizona as being a huge swing. Look at what happens if Arizona goes blue. The presidency goes to Joe Biden narrowly. 273 Electoral College votes to Trump's 263. But if Arizona goes red, it completely swings the entire election. Now you see President Trump with 4 more votes than the 270 he would need. So if those other things hold true, according to what we're seeing from the polls in those 4 other swing states, Arizona is the difference. It's the difference. Getting out and voting in Arizona could make a huge difference. Again, if it goes blue, probably Biden. If it goes red, could be President Trump. So those are things to pay attention to as you're trying to decide, like, do I get out here and vote today? It's definitely something you should consider. You have a voice here in Arizona. So you can stay up with all of our complete Decision 2020 coverage throughout the rest of the day. You'll see nonstop local coverage tonight from 7 p.m. until 2 a.m. on the 12 News app, 12news.com, and then on YouTube as well.
At the global epicenter of this virus in Wuhan, China, the 11-week lockdown is finally over. Today, Chinese authorities reopened the city after more than 50,000 cases of COVID-19 and more than 2,500 deaths. 76 days of lockdown, and a little perspective here for you. The American epicenter of the virus, New York City, of course, is now on day 20 of a stay-at-home order. The American coronavirus models speculating the projected impact of the disease and the number of deaths that we could see are trending downward. Health officials claiming social distancing is in fact working. But the fear is that Americans might stop following the guidelines and trigger a second wave of outbreaks.
If people start going out again and socially interacting, we could see a very acute second wave very early.
In New York, the number of new hospitalizations continues to stabilize, even as patients infected weeks ago are now dying in record numbers each day. The death toll from coronavirus in New York City alone is now greater than the number of lives lost on 9/11. And Salt Lake City Mayor Aaron Mendenhall says the impact on travel will be just as bad, maybe even worse.
Unlike 9/11, where the planes stopped flying for 4 days, we won't see that kind of quick response and ability, as people who may be carrying the virus may not even know it yet.
The benchmarks may be different, but comparisons between these two events are uncanny. KSL News Radio's Lee Lonsberry asking Jeff Kaplan about what it was like to work in New York City on September 11th and how he's experiencing a lot of similarities with the impact of COVID-19.
The question is often asked, where were you on September 11th? Me? I was doing my radio show in New York City with a perfect view of the World Trade Center. And our traffic guy in the chopper came on the air.
We are just currently getting a look at the World Trade Center. We have something that has happened here at the World Trade Center. We had seen a fireball, and I can tell you it appears as though something has gone into the World Trade Center.
We're in shock, and we're sending reporters down there to the World Trade Center. We're getting eyewitness reports on the phone. It was chaos.
It's exploding right now, Tommy. We're seeing another
apparently
plane.
That was another plane.
Is it appropriate for us to look at the events of today and make comparisons and draw comparisons to September 11th?
It's a comparison that I made about 2 weeks ago when this all first started happening and everybody started going into seclusion, especially me. Suddenly I'm in my house, no contact with humanity. And the weird part that I felt was the same is suddenly I was having the sleepless nights. Has anybody else experienced that, where you wake up and worry or can't get to sleep? That was one of the defining things for all New Yorkers, because while we know now 3,000 people died in New York City that day, as I mentioned in that report, which was 19 years ago now, we didn't know if it was 50,000 dead, 30,000 dead, and likewise now, we don't know how many will die by the time this thing is over. There are so many questions, and I think it's a legitimate comparison. This doesn't feel as searing because there's no pile of smoking rubble that you're staring at as you talk about coronavirus, but it's valid to compare the two.
Well, I have been informed that Vice President Kamala Harris has been put in charge of border security. She's about the worst possible choice that one could make. In no point in her career has she given any indication that she considers the border a problem or a serious threat. If President Biden's intent was to show that he's taking this issue seriously, he's really done the exact opposite here. He's completely trivialized this issue by putting someone in charge who flat out just doesn't care.
Governor Ducey with some strong words about how the Biden administration is handling what he calls a crisis at the U.S.-Mexico border. At a press conference in Tucson yesterday, he slammed the vice president Kamala Harris, who President Biden did put in charge of handling that massive influx of migrants. And although reporters pointed out illegal immigration has only gotten worse in his time as governor, Ducey highlighted the eye-catching increase, specifically in migrant children, in February and March, right after President Biden took office.
Governor Ducey brazenly called out data directly from the federal government and alleged the president's administration has been AWOL on one of the biggest issues affecting Arizona and other border states.
Arizona's southern border is broken. This is Joe Biden's border crisis. According to President Biden's own Secretary of Homeland Security, Secretary Mayorkas, these are the highest numbers in the past 20 years. So this is something that needs attention immediately, yet the Biden administration has been anti-wall and they have been AWOL, absent without leave on this issue. Who couldn't see this crisis coming when the policies of the previous administration were reversed willy-nilly?
Well, now in at least one Arizona city, a state of emergency is in effect after migrants seeking asylum were dropped off in the middle of the town. Team 12's Adriana Loya shows us how Gila Bend, a community about 80 miles north of the Mexican border, is coming together to deal with the situation.
80 miles north of the U.S.-Mexico border, you will find Gila Bend, a small community with about 2,000 residents, 70% of them Hispanic.
So pretty much the whole operation for the town is
right here.
Yep. And it's not going to be enough for anybody else.
No, we barely have enough people here now just to handle the day-to-day operations of the town.
Mayor Chris Riggs is concerned after Customs and Border Patrol dropped off 16 asylum seekers into his community. The group of migrants were comprised of 5 families, the mayor says from Venezuela and 1 from Chile.
They were scared. They were terrified. They had no idea why they were just being dumped.
Mayor Riggs says he was notified 2 hours prior to the drop on Monday. He scrambled to get transportation, and in 2 borrowed vans, his wife, 2 volunteers, and himself drove families to a shelter in Phoenix.
We care. We want to help these people. The problem is we don't have the funding.
On Tuesday, he issued a state of emergency in hopes of getting FEMA funds.
I'm hoping to use it more as a symbolic tool to try to force the governor to provide us assistance.
Have you heard from him?
No.
But who has reached out? Community members. Gerardo Cruz owns a local store in town. If more asylum seekers arrive, he says he'll be there to feed them and help translate like on Monday.
Están muy emotivos. Una muchacha se soltó llorando, dándole gracias a Dios que estaban en buenas manos.
The mayor says they will be on standby, expecting to get at least 1 drop every day.
This is just wrong. We need to take the politics out of it, and we need to just focus on right and wrong and way that these people are being treated, and it is flat out wrong.
CBP wouldn't confirm the migrant releases here or the reasons behind it. But in the meantime, Mayor Riggs says he will add a job position to help coordinate CBP releases in the future, but says as of right now, they have no funds for it. In Gila Bend, Adriana Loya, 12 News.
And for the first time in President Biden's administration, news crews are getting a first look inside a crowded migrant processing center. Alice Barr has the latest.
The Biden administration, for the first time, allowing TV news cameras to join a delegation of White House officials and Democratic lawmakers touring a holding center for unaccompanied migrant children.
We're taking steps to ensure that the press and members of Congress and the public in America can see what we're doing. We're trying our best.
The Federal Health and Human Services facility in Carrizo Springs, Texas, housing close to 800 kids aged 13 to 17. This is their second stop after Border Patrol, where the worst of the overcrowding has been.
We have to ensure the safety of the staff and the children.
The surge in border crossings becoming a humanitarian crisis.
There's no question that this is a challenging situation.
President Biden handing Vice President Harris the enormous task of coordinating with Mexico and Central American countries to stem the flow of migrants.
She's the most qualified person to do it, to lead our efforts.
The announcement coming at a joint meeting with immigration advisors.
This new surge we're dealing with now started with the last administration, but it's our responsibility to deal with it humanely
Senate Republicans making a coordinated push to hammer the Biden administration for reversing President Trump's hardline border policies.
They caused this. They changed policies that were working.
Both sides agree there is an emergency at the border, but the disagreement over how to handle it only deepening the partisan divide.
And today, another first for President Biden. He'll hold his first press conference as commander-in-chief, where he's expected to face questions directly from the media on the growing humanitarian crisis at the border.
Welcome back to Today in AZ. Welcome to Arizona, J.J. Watt. 12 News is your official locker room of the Arizona Cardinals, and this next season looks to be one of our best yet. The NFL superstar signed a 2-year deal with the Redbirds worth $31 million. This was the tweet that was worth, I don't even know. It was priceless.
Well, what's amazing is that in this day and age of social media and things leaking out to the media and things like that, it kept this one totally under wraps.
He did it his way.
Yeah, the Cardinals were absolutely not on anybody's radar here. And then all of a sudden, boom, this tweet, it didn't even come from someone in the national media. It came from J.J. Watt himself, which is great because it even said, source me.
Well, Ryan, you know I love a little I told you so. So stand by.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I don't know, Rachel. It would be nice to see him here. I personally don't think it makes the most sense. Playing with his brother in Pittsburgh makes the most sense. He'd be closer to winning a Super Bowl if he went to, say, Tennessee. Miami would be a good spot. Arizona has plenty of pass rushers when they're all healthy.
Thoughts?
Yeah, totally still agree with what I said. 100%. Okay, so they need... All right, here's the thing. I like that he's here. I'm not, denying that. I mean, he's a great player.
Yes.
Arizona is 10 pieces away from a Super Bowl. Those other teams I said were a J.J. Watt away from the Super Bowl.
We're one step closer, Ryan.
Okay, so we're now we still need 9 more pieces to get to where we want to go. All right, fine. That's fine. I didn't even know that was coming. Thanks for calling me out on the fly there like that. I'm not going away from that. I do still think Arizona needs to do many things before we can start talking about going to the Super Bowl. Anyway, how did we get here? Many around football, including myself, certainly shocked that all this happened. Kirsten Susel, she's explaining it.
It all started when DeAndre Hopkins posted a photo with his former teammate with the caption, "Let's finish what we started." Fans took the post and ran with it, hoping that Watt would take him up on the invite. But the chatter quickly stopped when the so-called experts started leaving the Cardinals out of the conversation. J.J. Watt tweeted that he needed time, and that's what he was given. Then he reemerged with a cryptic message on Peloton. Well, that's not true, not even close. J.J. Watt doesn't own a bike, but someone named K.J. Watt changed his bio to show the Packers, Browns, and Bills as finalists.
People have been trying to encrypt his tweets and stuff. They're saying that he was giving out hints and stuff about where he's gonna sign.
Then came the post, straight from the source. Watt representing his new team in the weight room. Kyler Murray welcomes his new teammate by tweeting an old pic. And as far as D-Hop goes, he says life couldn't be any better.
Life is good. You know what I mean?
Welcome to Arizona, J.J. Watt.
So this is the start the Cardinals needed this offseason, but it does leave them with some major questions. It's a move that's going to impact guys like Hassan Reddick and Patrick Peterson, for instance. They might not be able to afford to pay any of them, quite frankly, let alone one of them. And adding J.J. Watt, will it help Larry Fitzgerald make up his mind about possibly coming back? We're not sure yet. J.J. says he believes this team can win a Super Bowl, and that's all Fitz wants to keep saying. So that is good news. Here's the thing. For Cardinals fans, this is why this is such a big deal. Because J.J. Watt chose Arizona. It wasn't like the opposite way in like a trade where like someone else just orchestrated this and he ended up here. He could have gone almost anywhere he wanted, and he chose to come to Arizona. So he believes, clearly, that Arizona is the place to go to win Also, Arizona, according to many people, was willing to pay him the most money, and it wasn't close. Like, a lot more money than anybody else was willing to pay him.
He wants to win. He was making a ton of money in Houston. He wants to be here. We're blessed to have him.
Sure.
It's the best news I've gotten all week.
I do not want to
You will
hear
not
that
rain
people
on my
are willing
parade.
to leave millions on the table to come somewhere and not win. All right, like, that is a thing. Money does matter. It absolutely matters.
Continue to lose every year in an embarrassing
Look, the
way.
Cardinals are on their way up. There is no doubt about that. No doubt about that. No one's saying.
You will rain on my parade this week.
It doesn't even rain here, so I'm not. You can't say that. That's another thing he'll love about Arizona.
Well, let's turn it over to Crystal because guess what? I think we have rain in the forecast.
Oh goodness! I am on a roll today. Get out of here.
Thank you, Ryan, for participating. Welcome back. Well, financial markets are coming back after a lackluster week on Wall Street, but fallout continues this morning between professional traders and retail investors. Robinhood, the app that allows everyday users to buy and sell capital, banned trades of certain stocks after Reddit users successfully stopped a short by major hedge funds on GameStop shares. Shorting is when you bet against a company's stock price. Well, now Robinhood is facing serious backlash, Ryan.
Yeah, they sure are. Let's break down this whole controversy. First, you should know about Robinhood, the app touted as an easier way for the everyday investor to make unlimited commission-free trades. Those are literally the first words on their website. Investing for everyone, right? First thing you see. But the problem is that Robinhood isn't allowing everyone to trade right now. Reddit users surged GameStop stock at price some 8,000%, killing the short. And it should have been a layup for major investors. GameStop is in the middle of bankruptcy. Instead, big hedge funds lost more than $14 billion. The Reddit board claims it wanted to stick it to the big guys for manipulating the market in the past. You know what? Here's where it gets interesting, though. Robinhood then restricted users from investing in GameStop and a handful of other companies as well that Reddit users wanted to buy. Meanwhile, major investment firms could still continue trading. The move stoked the fire in Congress and beyond, where politicians on both sides of the aisle were outraged at the obvious inequality on Wall Street.
All of a sudden, the billionaires and some hedge funds are yelling because they're not the only ones who make money when the manipulation works.
No, this is not fake. What you're looking at here is a rare bipartisan agreement, even seeing Republican Senator Ted Cruz retweeting Democratic Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She says she would support a congressional hearing on Robinhood's decision to block retail investors. Senator Cruz adding that he'd be in full agreement for a hearing. Yes, you saw that correctly. Fully agree, pointing down to the Democratic representative. Robinhood says they will allow users to resume some trading of those restricted stocks as early as today, but the move, again, not sitting well with retail investors. This one Instagram account's simple critique was just had to let the hedge funds unwind their shorts. Come on back, please. For now, GameStop's stock price is starting to level off after that surge, but you can see in just the last 5 days how wild this battle has been between the big guy and the little guy. Just crazy, Rachel.
Who knew GameStop was going to make for strange bedfellows in 2021?
Did you see this coming?
I definitely did not. But you know what? I can't wait for the movie. You know that's
yeah, that's a good point.